there, it's Margo here from Indie Birth, coming at you live with a book recommendation. I don't know why the glare is so bad in my glasses. Holy mackerel. Let's see. I guess that's a little bit better. We'll just have to deal with it. Maybe I'll just go sideways here. There we go. So today oh dear, is it going? Where's the little second hand? I wanted to talk just a little bit about this really awesome book I recently read, and I couldn't believe I hadn't read it before and hadn't heard about it before until pretty recently. So, here we go. There we go. So someone recommended this book to me pretty recently, and I ordered myself a copy of it, and I'm going to tell you about it in just a minute once we have a couple people joining us. So until then, I'm just going to kind of hang out for a moment and tell you a little bit about some other cool stuff happening in the indie birth world. I hosted today my first Indie Birth one-day workshop here in Duluth, Minnesota. I moved here in May and had been doing these experimental one-day sort of pop-up birth workshops with Mirren. And it has been really, really fun and really exciting to see who comes out and like the questions that people have and sort of the insight people take away from these experiences. So I was really excited to offer it here in my new hometown. And kind of old hometown, I was born here, of Duluth, Minnesota. So I had a couple pregnant folks join me today to learn about birth, which was really fun, and I threw in some new videos and new information and some new formatting, which has been really cool to test out and toy with. So that's been really exciting. We also have fully updated our Indie Birth Conference website, indiebirthconference.com, with all of the schedule of speakers and the topics that they're going to be talking about at the conference in March. So now we have all of that up there for you to check out and see for your own viewing pleasure, and you can get a sense of what the conference in March is going to be like. So that's really exciting. That's some of the news that is coming out from our little neck of the woods. Other than that, we're still plugging along on the Indie Birth Midwifery School as well. And we're going to be releasing the virtual tour for that here in the next month or so. Pardon me. So without further ado, I'm going to show you this book. So someone posted about this on Facebook recently, and I was really excited that there was some fiction I could get into my life that was still about birth, because I, of course, love to talk and read and learn about birth, and needed a little bit of something more light and easy to digest, and something I could read while I was also hanging out with my toddler around, which is rare. So I also spent probably a couple nights staying up way too late to get it read. So without further ado, here's this really cool book. Oh, I bet it's backwards. Oh no. It's called The Birth House by Amy McKay, and I saw a thread of people talking about it and how awesome it was and that they were all going to check it out too, and I was like, oh, how fun. I'll read it and so I can talk about it with people and see if it's any good. I'm always really skeptical when it comes to birth fiction, that it's going to be sort of over-sensationalized and dramatized. And I was really pleasantly surprised with this book. It is about a young apprentice midwife in Nova Scotia. And so she's apprenticing with, I'm just reading off the back cover here a little bit, she's an apprentice to a outspoken Acadian midwife, Miss Babanu. And she's in an isolated Nova Scotian village. Oh good, I'm glad you've read it too, Joyce. It's so good. So, like I said, it's not overly sensationalized or dramatized. It's about these women and some of the births that they go to, but more than that, it's about women supporting other women in this really awesome way that I hope others would find inspirational as well. So women sitting around knitting with each other, with their kids in a house, cooking food with each other and for each other, and what I really feel like is the heart of traditional midwifery. And so I found myself a few times just like crying while reading this book, thinking like, how beautiful is this story of these women supporting each other in, times where they didn't have electricity and didn't have running water, and just thinking back to how my ancestors and your ancestors lived together, and it's really, really beautiful. So again, that's The Birth House by Amy McKay, and I got mine used on Amazon for relatively cheap because I just wanted to check it out. And like I said, I'm usually pretty skeptical about these books. So the other really awesome part about it is of course, there's a political bent to it, which is kind of fun, and where some of the drama comes in, where this new doctor comes into the area. Maybe he's not new to the area, but he has this idea to open a birth house that's clean and modern, and utilizes, of course, drugs so that women have fast, painless births with forceps and that sort of thing. And so it's this really interesting look at how women in their community get on board with this idea, kind of, and are like, oh, that sounds kind of good. And then some of them are like, that sounds terrible. Why would I do that when I have these midwives who I trust? And some of the interesting dynamics that can happen when partners want something else than the mother wants. So some of the partners who want what's best for their wife and want to pay the money to go to the the birthing facility in a nearby town, whether that's for issues of status or just because they want to feel like they are doing what's best for their wife. So it's an interesting look at the way that those kind of relationships work, and it's not, obviously it's fictional, but I'm sure that was something that played into it, and I never had really thought of that, thinking back to when birth did start moving from home to hospital. And obviously isn't a whole lot different than now when we have people talking to us about, their partner wanting them to go to the doctor for X, Y, and Z reasons, and usually it's with the best of intentions, and women saying, no, like, I want to do this the way I want to do it and the way that women have done it before me. So I thought that was a really awesome aspect of the book. And, they say it's in a clash between tradition and science. Dora, the main character, finds herself fighting to protect the rights of women, as well as the wisdom that has been put into her care. There's also like a healthy dose of just really awesome, like, nature-based, place-based imagery. It's like a really poetic, beautiful book as well. And there's this really cool, she obviously did her research, and I feel like there's stuff she's taken directly, like from Susan Weed, for example, like her blood pressure remedy of sorts with like the lemon and cream of tartar. That's in the book at one point, and so I just felt like it was really well researched, and the woman, Amy McKay, who wrote this, had at least one home birth of her own. I'm trying to remember, I read about her, and she worked closely with a midwife and a few midwives, it sounds like, to get the details really, really good for these different birth scenes. So, it's this really awesome book, and I hope you read it. It's, again, called The Birth House by Amy McKay. And the last thing I'll say is just that I really loved the timing of having read it. I had ordered it, and it kind of sat around on my shelf for a little while. And when I finally did read it, I ended up at a birth the following week. And, it was my first birth here in Minnesota, and it was sort of under funny circumstances, and as I was driving, I just found myself reflecting back on this book I had just read. Even though it was fiction, I really felt a huge sense of peace and a sense of connectedness with the midwives who've gone before me as I was, driving to this birth and looking for that grounding and that inspiration. And so I just wanted to share that with you, and that it had a big impact on me, and it's one that I'm going to be keeping on my bookshelf for people to read. I think it's a great one for people who are just sort of getting into these ideas too, because it's kind of a fun, non-threatening way to be introduced to the ideas of midwifery and home birth, and with some of the good political and factual pieces in there as well. So that's my book review I wanted to share with you and have been wanting to share recently. So, The Birth House by Amy McKay. It was really fun, and if you've read it or if you read it, let me know what you think of it, and make sure you, if you like it, to pass your copy on to somebody else. So, alright, thanks so much. And I'm trying to think what else I was going to tell you. I think a lot of people missed it at the beginning of the video, so I'll just repeat that I did my first workshop, Indie Birth workshop here in Duluth today, which was really fun, and I had a cool crowd, maybe not a crowd, a small handful of people, and that was really exciting, and that it's something that we're honing and working on for our post-conference in March, to really craft something that's super useful that you can bring back to your community and use as well in whatever format you want. But we're experimenting with this one-day free workshop format, which is really, really fun, and has gotten really neat, interesting, different people into our community of birthy folks than I've seen before. So more exciting news about that, I'm sure, later. And along those lines, all of the speakers and session titles and descriptions are now up on the website indiebirthconference.com for information about that. That's where you should go. And that's about it. So we have a little while left for early bird prices for the conference, and now that we have those titles out, I believe it's a great time to look at that and see if it's something you want to come to in March. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.